Welcome to the Peak of Geek, where we've hit the top but with no plans to stop. Nowadays, I love to be scared. Whether I'm riding a speeding roller coaster and loving life as the wind whips through my hair, or watching a terrifying movie but actually cackling at all the jump scares, there's a feeling of adrenaline that I absolutely love. But when I was younger, it was a completely different story. When I was younger, most things scared me. And the thing that sat at the very top of that pile of fears was Chucky the Killer Doll. Chucky was created by writer Don Mancini in the 1980s, inspired by the rampant consumerism of the time period, especially the amount of marketing towards children. As the child of an advertising executive, Mancini was influenced by the success of the Cabbage Patch Kids and the Twilight Zone episode Living Doll, among others. The script was originally entitled Batteries Not Included before it was changed to Blood Buddy, and finally to Child's Play, before hitting theaters in the fall of 1988. The original films followed Andy Barclay, a little boy who wants nothing more than a doll as a friend for Christmas, but gets so much more than he bargained for when a desperate serial killer with a voodoo obsession sends his soul into the very doll that Andy's poor single mother would bring home. Oh, Andy got a friend all right, but he would soon realize this is one friend he would not want till the end. The success of the first film would lead to a sequel in 1989 and a third in 1990, but then the franchise would lay dormant for 7 years, something that would become a bit of a habit for the series. But as they say, you can't keep a good guy down, and in 1998, the franchise would return with the cult classic horror comedy Bride of Chucky. Andy may be gone, but he's been replaced by Tiffany, the evil Barbie to Chucky's masochistic Ken. And this genre switch to a more comedic style approach would help the franchise outgrow the whole evil doll plays cat and mouse game with a scared kid. But let's not kid each other, this film is very campy, definitely not to be taken seriously, but man is it a lot of fun. Unfortunately, it would be another 6 years before Chucky returned for his final outing on the big screen, with Seed of Chucky in 2004. But even more unfortunately, the campiness of this film would tip the scales a bit too far into the absurdity, with an installment that many agree stands as the black sheep of the franchise. This time, writer Don Mancini stepped into the director's chair, and while it's clear he's having the time of his life here, especially with the introduction of Chucky and Tiffany's child, Glenn/Glenda, a clear nod to the movie of the same name by Ed Wood, even that can't save this strange film. There are fun moments for sure, but the self-referential nature here is a bit too much for most to bear. And after the disappointment of Seed of Chucky, the franchise would hit another lull and wouldn't come back out of hibernation for nearly a decade. This time around, Don Mancini returned the series to its horror roots with a lower budget film called Curse of Chucky in 2013. It may have a generic title and it may have skipped the movie theaters, but that doesn't mean that you should skip out on this fantastic return to form. Don Mancini bravely decided not to go the reboot direction like so many other horror icons at the time, but instead keep building upon the legacy of his creation and keep continuity, something that he adheres to even today. Cult of Chucky, the next blood-soaked installment, skipped theaters once more and released in 2017 with even higher reviews and more praise than last time. Even better, Mancini decided to reward his longtime fans with 3 incredible cameos. 2 of them hadn't been in a Chucky movie for 27 years. Mind blown. The cliffhanger ending of Cult of Chucky wouldn't leave fans without their favorite killer doll for long, but I don't think anybody could have predicted what happened next. Instead of making another direct-to-streaming sequel, Mancini would instead take his existing characters, throw in a bunch of high school kids, and create Chucky the TV Series. This is where we are now with the Chucky saga, and it truly feels like we've come full circle. Chucky the TV show is the perfect amalgamation of everything that has helped this series endure for 35 years and counting. You've got the evil doll chasing the young adults, you've got the comedic moments, you've got the traditional slasher horror, and you've got a lot of wild and crazy history to draw from and incorporate into the mix. You may have noticed we skipped the Child's Play reboot from 2019. That was on purpose. Yes, Mark Hamill was in it, and yes, it was okay as far as modern remakes go, but we won't be discussing it any further here. Check it out if you want, but we're moving on. Is there any other horror icon that's lasted as long as Chucky, and with such a rich continuity? The only comparison I can make is with the Universal Monsters series of movies, which started with Dracula in the 1930s and lasted until the 50s. But by my count, that's still only 25 years. And like I said earlier, this guy's on his 35th anniversary. I bet you gained a little bit more respect for this killer doll, haven't you? But why does Chucky have such a passionate fandom, even after all these years? Maybe the success can be attributed to Don Mancini himself, and the fact that he's been with the series as writer and eventual director since the beginning. Or maybe it's thanks to the fantastic voice of Brad Dourif as Chucky, whose incredible performance, ranging from threatening menace to insane bouts of laughter, are both equally iconic. Or maybe it's because the team behind this franchise are literally connected by family ties, when you realize Brad Dourif's real-life daughter Fiona was introduced as an important character in Curse of Chucky. Or it could be the fact that Mancini isn't afraid to change things up and take risks while always staying true to the characters he's created. Personally, I think it's a combination of everything, but it's important not to forget about the fear factor. When I was a kid, I was terrified of Chucky simply because of what he was, a killer doll. The idea that a doll, something that's supposed to represent protection from loneliness and monsters, could become the monster that you actually fear, even if it's only true in your imagination, that's a pretty scary concept. I remember as a kid, walking down the aisle of our local video store, and my sister turned around a corner, and I was face to face with this poster from Child's Play 2. It was terrifying. This would kickstart a fear of dolls that would jump back and forth between Chucky and Slappy from Goosebumps. I'm talking book cover or even original TV series Slappy, by the way, not new movie with Jack Black Slappy. Killer dolls would constantly invade my nightmares until one day I decided enough was enough. I tracked down a copy of the first Child's Play, put that VHS in my VCR. Yeah, I know, I'm old. And I realized it wasn't as scary as I thought it was. In fact, it was actually kind of funny. And with that, my fear was conquered. And then fear turned into love, and the rest, as they say, is history. Fear is fascinating and something I've always had an interesting relationship with. As someone who's had lifelong issues with anxiety, a fear I cannot control, I will always jump at the chance to experience a fear I can control. I can choose to watch that killer doll movie. I can choose to go on that roller coaster. And once that fear is over and the adrenaline washes over me, I feel stronger than I was before. What does fear mean to you? Do you love watching the latest horror movies and riding the newest roller coasters? Or are you watching those movies with your hands over your eyes and avoiding theme parks at all costs? Do you like Chucky the Killer Doll? Or are you more of a Freddy Krueger or a Ghostface fan? Or could you not care less? Either way, let me know down in the comments below. And until next time... Did that doll just move? It's just me, right? Yeah, it's just me.